Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, season 2. This is Ben Kinney, Chad Hyams. We are talking about what this season?
Winning.
Oh, I just love it every single time. This time we're actually here with Bob Stewart.
Hey, look who showed up.
Bob Stewart, Chad Hyams, Ben Kinney, and the silent man in the back, Dave Weldon. We're coming to you live. Not live. You're listening to this recorded. I take that back.
We're live.
Yeah.
We're live right now.
Right now? All of us? Holy crap. You know what? Bob had an idea today to talk about a subject that I think probably goes through a lot of our minds. Bob, why don't you introduce us to today's subject?
Yeah. So today's subject is going to be the hard truth of business, Ben. A lot of people want to start a business. A lot of people that listen here have started a business.
Yep.
They're thinking about it, right? They've got a job right now and they've got some idea. They want to become an entrepreneur. And beyond just the simple, numbers, right? That 27 or 20% of businesses will fail in the first 2 years, 45% will fail in the first 5 years, 65% will fail before they get to be 10 years old, right?
You're depressing me, Bob.
Yeah, there's a lot of failure as an entrepreneur. But let's say you decide you want to make that transition in your life, in your career. There are some hard truths, Ben. Some things that I know you don't get up every day. When we created a list of kind of some of these hard truths that I want to ask you about, because some of these things on this list, I know you don't get up today going, man, I really hope that there's a bunch of people out there that hate my guts, or man, I get to fire somebody today. This is going to be awesome. There's all these things that as the leader, the business owner, the entrepreneur that you come across almost on a daily basis that are just challenging. So I thought we'd take today's episode and we'd kind of, try to scare people away.
The hard truths.
Yeah,
right?
but to make sure people realize what they're getting into if they decide to go down this path.
Or what they're already in the middle of?
Yeah.
Right.
Which sometimes they're avoiding some of these things, right? Because they're not comfortable doing them, but most of these things are things that at some point you're going to have to do or face.
Okay, I like this. This is a good idea. We're going to rename this episode "The Shit They Don't Teach You in College."
There it is.
There you
Right,
go.
There it is.
right. All the things that they don't come in the leadership books.
Yeah.
Not the list that you put together, Bob.
Yeah, the business school didn't talk. Why? I went through business school. They didn't tell me once that I was going to have to fire somebody one day. That was not a part of the class,
Yeah, right. This reminds me of one of my favorite books, The Hard Things About Hard Things, or The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I think it was by Ben Horowitz. Chad will back up my statement there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Nailed it.
There you go.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the stuff they don't teach you about in college, the hard things about hard things. What were you calling it, Bob?
The hard truths of business.
The hard truths of business.
But I like
it.
shit they never taught you in your MBA program.
Okay, we're going to save everybody $100,000 on an MBA.
There it is.
And they're going to dive right into the nuts and bolts of business.
You can send your thank yous to my Venmo account. That is at no, I'm just kidding. All right, you ready for
Bob,
number one?
Bob already mentioned one in there, right? You already mentioned one in there. And Ben, let's hear it from your take on this.
Did you notice that we switched the order?
Yes.
Okay.
And he mentioned right off the bat already that not everyone is going to like you.
What? I thought friends aren't just for Facebook?
No, not everyone is going to like you. Talk a little bit about that, what that's like. There's been some friendships along the way, and we're not even talking friendships. We're talking even the people in the workplace as well.
Well, and I'll even set this up a little bit further for you, Ben, because I can't even count how many people over the years have told me I didn't like Ben. I didn't used to like Ben.
Yep.
And most of those people, by the way, before they ever met you, right? They'd never met you. They saw you on a stage somewhere or listened to you somewhere or something. They thought, I don't know, something about this guy. By the way, every one of those people who's ever said that to me was saying it in the context of, I actually like this guy a lot. I just didn't think I liked him. But you're going to have people that you know.
For me. There's hope for me for all those people who don't like me?
No,
Okay.
Chad, there's no hope for you. Some people are not going to like you that you're involved with. Some people are just going to be on the outside hating you. They don't even know you yet, but people aren't going to like you.
Talk about that hard truth.
I remember John Maxwell story that he told at one of his events once that I got to go to, and he said tall trees get hit by lightning. I don't know if he stole that from somebody else or that's his, but when you do good in business, your competitors aren't going to like you. It's impossible sometimes to build a big business where every one of your customers is going to like you. It's also tough to hold employees accountable and expect them to live up to their potential and have them always like you all the time. And I had to find this balance in my world where my people knew that I cared, but it didn't mean that they had to like me all the time. In fact, it reminds me of one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time, the Art Williams "Do It" speech. And
yes, you used to show that again.
it's not the type of "do it" that we're thinking about today. Like it is a great video. You guys should all go watch. Spend 25 minutes of your day today and watch the Art Williams "Do It" speech.
I'll put a link to it in our Facebook group. So,
so
facebook.com/group/win-make-give. When we drop this episode, I'll put a link to that.
Awesome. So in part of his speech, Bob, he says, "I love my wife, but I don't like her all the time." And he starts going on this dialogue about how she doesn't put the cap on the toothpaste, and it gets that little crusty ring of toothpaste on the end that when you squeeze it, it little comes out and it's disgusting, right? She drives me bonkers, he says. That's what it's like sometimes. In business, when you work closely with people, we're not always going to like each other. Sometimes you got to have tough conversations. But don't confuse liking with caring. Because when you work in a business that you care about with people that you care about, you're always going to care about them. Doesn't mean that they're always going to like you all the time.
What about that just kind of low level hum from kind of outside of your world? Does that ever get to you at all? Like that idea that there's people out there that have never met you that don't like you? Or you just not even spend any brainwaves on that?
I think that anybody, all of us out there, Bob, are affected in some way by the haters, the rock throwers, right?
Yeah.
The bad reviews online, whatever those things might be.
Yeah.
Especially the creepy, weird, anonymous ones where you don't even know who said it because they're such cowards.
Yeah.
Right? But over time, you start valuing the people that you care about more than the people you don't. And that's probably the secret to number one. If you're going to succeed in business, you have to understand that you're not going to be liked by everybody, but that doesn't matter. Value the people that you care about more than the opinions from people that you don't.
Great point. Bob?
All right. Now, so let's move on. So the first one, not everyone's going to like you. The second one is you can guarantee that at some point people are going to disappoint you. You have a number of stories, I'm sure, of people that have disappointed you over time. But like as a leader, how do you deal with that?
It's so much better than fear in some ways. Like you can use disappointment as a motivation. I think a lot of my people will work harder just to not disappoint us than they would to, for money or something else. But here's the thing that I found is that I can't make my goals, my motivation, my dreams, and my desire, my work ethic everybody else's. Not everybody wants the same things out of life. Not everybody is willing to live up to their own potential, and not everybody's going to live up to the potential that I have, engraved in my mind around who that Chad is going to be or who that Bob's going to be. It's going to be like a podcast about books because we read so much. But, in The Untethered Soul, they said that people don't disappoint you. Our expectations of them do. So think about that. Like every time you're mad at your spouse or somebody else that did something wrong or whatever, it wasn't them that did it. They didn't do it on purpose. It's our expectations of them that's truly the thing that's letting us down. And the empowering thing with that statement is that because it's our expectations, it's something we can change. We can't change their actions. Just understand that over time, as you get into business with more and more people, they're not always going to live up to your high standards. And I might add, they won't all live up to your unrealistic standards. Like sometimes in leadership, we feel like we can make mistakes, but nobody else in our world can.
That's a great point.
The other thing that my brain tosses out after listening to you there is if our expectations of people are what ultimately disappoint us, are we clearly conveying those expectations to them, right? And you talk a lot about those kind of crystal clear conversations and the expectations and everybody making sure everybody else knows kind of what's expected of them. So Like, are you even communicating those expectations? Are they just living up in your head and now somebody's disappointing you, not even knowing how they could have not disappointed you?
It could be the lack of clarity for sure, right? Or the lack of us being a good leader. In our other episodes, we call it the fiduciary duties of a leader.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Bob, have you ever had that time when Ben just shakes his head slightly back and forth, gives you that look that he's got and says, I'm so disappointed.
Well, he just did it to me, like, Chad. He just did it to me like 5 minutes before we started this episode. He even threw in some shame around my children into the mix. So, yeah, I've been there. I'm still recovering.
We all managed to disappoint people at a time, sadly. All right, Ben, so as we were talking this out, what was one of those things you threw at us that ended up as number 3 on the list as one of those hard truths of business?
It's going to cost more and take longer. Probably the best quote that I've heard that summarizes that is that people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do in the long term.
Yep.
And when you think about all the episodes we've done on money and compounding, you see that a penny doubled doesn't mean very much until it's been doubling for a little while of time, and then it means massive and it grows just what's the shape?
Hockey stick?
Like a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Thank you
Rocket
for that.
taking off.
Yeah. Things always cost more and take longer. If you ever remodeled a house, you know that. You ever built a house, you know that. You ever built a business from scratch, you know that. You ever trained a new employee, you actually know that. But when you're getting into business, your optimism outweighs the facts and the research. So we have to be careful that you don't get caught in the hard of it's going to take longer and cost more. So now I just plan for it. And then I don't get disappointed. My contractor, who's awesome guy, love him, been working with me for 10, 11 years, does remodels, fixes up homes for us. If he tells me 3 months, I know it's going to take 6. I'm just okay with it. That's Uncle Steve. That's what he does. He takes 6 months instead of 3. But I'm okay with it. And it's probably going to cost more. There's something else behind the wall that we've never seen before. When we tear open that wall, there's, oh my gosh, sort of situations. And we take time to fix it.
What about in business specifically? I mean, when you decide you've got a project for the team or when you've got something you want to get launched, do you in your head say the timeline is 2 months, knowing 4 months is what it's really going to be? Or do you say 2 months and say, 6. Hey, everybody hurry up?
So it doesn't take 6. I always push the deadline all the time.
Right.
I give deadlines all the time. And, hopefully they're not listening to the podcast. Sometimes they're entirely arbitrary or artificial.
Right.
But I'll pick something. We have a conference coming up in 30 days. We need to have these 5 things released for that event. It gives everybody something that they're working for, right? Some timeline.
And just for those listening that hear that, know that Ben is also a master at dodging the accepting of a deadline when some of us try to throw them at him.
Because it's your deadline, not mine.
There it is. All right. So it's always going to cost more and it's always going to take longer. And we should kind of plan for that and expect that that's the case. Number 4, like you have this, what do you say? Like when I give you a potato, I don't want a potato back. I want French fries back. But like ultimately though, you can just kind of accept the hard truth that every responsibility is in some way going to fall back to you. First off, why is that the case? And then second, what do you do about that?
Yeah, when you're the business owner, at the end of the day, it's your business. If it's failing or succeeding, it's your fault. It's not who you hired. It's not the economy. It's not the market. It's literally your fault. So I have to understand that at the end of the day, it's my responsibility for the success or failure in everything in our business. Now, I can try to get other people in our world to have, we'll quote another book, extreme ownership. But I found that, there's a very select amount of people that have the same amount of ownership as I do, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day at 1 a.m. when a customer has a problem or when we have an issue. And, I have a lot of people that work in our world, Bob, but I bet you and I could count on, I don't know, 2 or 3 hands, the go-to team that we would pick out of, I don't know, thousands of people that work in our related companies.
Yeah.
That are all in, that take responsibility. But at the end of the day, they don't have to make payroll. One of my favorite things to do is hire somebody that's had to make payroll, Chad. It's a burden. When you knew that if payroll doesn't get made, you're taking it from your savings or you're borrowing it.
Yep.
It just gives you a little bit different form
Just
of
saying that
accountability.
back in my real estate, Brio Realty. Oh gosh, every time that payroll would come up, and I'm looking at the bank account, I'm like, where's this coming from? You know? Oh yeah.
Yeah, because when it's your business, you're the last one to get paid.
Yeah.
If you're a decent leader, right? You
Yeah.
make sure everybody else gets paid, and sometimes, right? As we go back to the last one, it takes longer, and you work a long time without getting paid.
So let's go to the one on that follows right on what you're saying there, Ben, which is that other people depend on you, right? You're talking about that right there, that you've got to get them paid. Other people depend on you. Talk about what that feels like to be in that position truly of other people having to depend on you.
Chad, have you ever let yourself down?
Sure.
Yeah, you ever done something you probably regretted?
Many of those things.
Yeah, both of us, right?
Yep.
I remember one time when Chad and I lived together, we basically lived on Dairy Queen
Yes, sir.
Blizzards, right? It's really easy to let yourself down when nobody's watching. But for me, one of the biggest drivers of our career has been hiring that first person to work on our business, and then the second and the third and the fourth or the fifth. Because when I know other people depend on me, I'm going to show up even when I don't want to. Mm-hmm. When it's just me, it's easy for me to say I'm not going to work out, or I'm going to have a burger, or I'm going to get Dairy Queen, whatever that might be.
Yep.
But it's hard for me to let somebody else down. So it's a gift, and it's hard, Bob Stewart. Knowing that other people depend on you is hard. It can feel like a burden. It can also feel like a gift because it helps you become a person that you wouldn't be otherwise.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on. This next one, like, I want to say this the right way, because you're so good. Obviously, you have feelings, right? Like, we all have feelings, but I think you've just done a masterful job of kind of putting your feelings like in the back seat, because the hard truth is your feelings don't really matter. Right? Like, you have them, but a lot of times you got to kind of tuck them away somewhere and make decisions, hire or fire somebody based on like evidence, data, like things that aren't just your feelings. So talk about like kind of putting your feelings to the side.
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is, Bob?
What's that?
Feelings.
We almost made a whole
Nothing but feelings.
Ooh, wow, that was the last thing that came to my mind. Thank God.
Thank you. Yes.
I read a quote once that said, I love people. I want for them the very best. But sometimes people don't give their best, and they put the mission in jeopardy. Basically, you cannot have the entire gander go down because of one goose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know what a flock of crows is called?
A murder.
A murder. You can't have the entire murder go down just for one stinky old crow. And we could probably think of some other groups of animals, flocks, herds.
Yes, I'm sure we could. A barrel of monkeys.
I don't know if that's a thing.
It is actually a thing. A group of monkeys is referred to as a barrel.
Is it really?
Yes.
No kidding.
Why do you think they came up
can
with the
double
game?
check that?
Bob's going to fact check me.
Googling.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Your feelings don't matter.
It's a tribe or a troop, by the way. Chad just made that shit up right there.
Bob, I sold that so well.
This is like a gigantic game of BS. Here's what we're saying. Don't confuse the fact that you have to do something with the fact that you don't care. It's kind of a reoccurring theme in this list, right? Sometimes you have to put your feelings or your friendships on the side for the sake of keeping everything together and saving the most amount of people. That make sense?
Yeah.
And we've had one scenario in our career during COVID, Bob, where we had to do pay cuts and do some minor layoffs. But it was, if we didn't do that and things got much worse, it could have cost everybody. And you had to make tough decisions. And, we made it right over time, and we've actually hired a bunch of those people back, and it was great. And we did the right thing, and it was hard. But I was awake all night, right? It hurt. But that day I came in and I just did what I had to do. And we all hand called every single person and said, today's a tough day, but we figured it out. Right?
Absolutely.
Right.
All right.
I think this next one, Chad, would be like an extension really of the fact that every responsibility falls back to you, which is you own every failure.
Yeah.
How do you just, what's your mindset going into like literally every day, knowing that any failure that happens across our entire organization with the hundreds of thousands of people that are touching the business, like ultimately you own that thing and it's your name kind of on it.
Yeah, it's almost a script, because what you'll hear us do in meetings, let's say David screwed up and did something, I'm going to walk into the room and say, everybody, this happened. We screwed up, and I want you to know it's my fault. And I'm taking
do that a number of times.
Most time it was my fault. Taking 100% responsibility and just saying, all right, now that all the responsibility is on me, which I can handle, Chad, and that's okay, right?
Yep.
Then I get to direct all that energy towards me, negative energy, and I get to go back to the group with nobody else harmed and simply say, now what are we going to do about it?
Yep.
Now the person who might have been at fault in some way walks away from that meeting with a different type of respect and admiration for who you are, because you kind of covered their butt.
Yeah.
50% of the time that person says, that leader is being taking responsibility, but it's mine too, or all mine, right? If they're a good, decent human.
When we're in a room and you step up and take responsibility, there's always somebody behind you that was, probably responsible, that also steps into the fray and says, yeah, and my hands are all over this too.
And you teach them that they have to own every failure by showing them that you owned every failure. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It's personal responsibility.
So nobody out there, let's go a little deeper on that for a sec, Ben. Nobody out there wants to fail. Nobody out there wants to be a failure. How do you deal with continuous failure showing up? Because even on the journey to success, it's not a straight line path. There's plenty of failure on the way to success. How do you just deal with constant failure in your world on that journey?
When you're as big of a loser as I am, you just get
Exactly.
used to it. In all seriousness, I probably knocked 40,000 doors and cold called 250,000 people, which means I've got 250,000 no's and FU's and doors slammed and dog bites and just weird stuff in my careers of sales and marketing and just getting shit done, basically, right? Which means I've gotten a lot of no's in my life and a lot of failures and rejection. And over time, honestly, it gets easier. So if you're sitting around here with the fear of rejection, your biggest issue is that you aren't failing fast enough and you aren't getting it out of the way quick enough. Over time, you build up a little bit of a callus and you understand that the secret to success is failing quickly and failing often.
Excellent. Excellent point, Ben. All right, so let's go on to the next one on our list here. Number 8, there's always something to do. There's always something that needs to get done and always something to do. You always will have this kind of unfinished feeling. I remember you, when you were really first getting started on your world domination path, you used to wake up every day pissed off because someone was a little bit ahead. There was always something you could have been doing, take you to that next level. How do you deal with the fact that it's a never-ending list of things that need to get done and can get done?
I think at the end of the day, when I finally get home, whatever day, time, night, whatever it is, right? I think about all the people that I didn't have a chance to get back to. And how I feel like I disappointed them or let them down. One of the hardest things in business is realizing that every single day somebody's going to get let down. If you solely work on your priorities and you do the most important things, some of the not most important things are going to slip through the cracks. And it just takes time to get okay with that. And you surround yourself with supportive people. They're like, no, I get it. I got your back. When it's super important, I'm going to pound on your door, show up at your house, right? You just have to be okay with some things don't get done. The key is, how do you focus on the most important thing, Chad? And it's simple. Listen to our daily plan episode and just figure out, what does winning look like tomorrow? If I only got one thing done tomorrow, what would it be? If I got 2 things done, what would it be? Everything outside of that order is actually irrelevant.
Okay.
You talk about, the way that you've positioned this on this podcast over the last couple of years or seasons is enjoy the journey. Right? It's not like this destination. Our business is never this destination when we get to the top of that mountain. That's it. High five. We're done. We're out of here. It's over. Wrap it up. Right?
Yay.
It's like we get there and there's another mountain to climb. There's always, so we're enjoying the journey along the way. That's one of the ways that you deal with that idea of like nothing's ever finished. is to just actually enjoy what you're doing, while you do it, realizing it's never going to be finished.
Yeah, finding joy in those little tiny completions or those little tiny victories. Yeah, it's awesome. Another thing we came up with, there's just no guarantees.
Right.
And I think about all the companies that started off building one thing and now are known for something entirely different. 3M is a good example.
Sure. Yep.
Right? Many, many companies didn't start off. Apple, great example.
Yep.
Right? We just go time and time again at these companies. There's no guarantees that what you're doing today is going to be what you're doing tomorrow. There's no guarantees that what you're doing today is even going to work. And some of the consultations I have with business owners is, you know what? Sometimes quitting's okay and sometimes quitting's good, and you got to walk away. Reminds me of an old stock commercial that I saw. It was like old Charles Schwab commercial, something that says, waiting for a stock to rebound is not long-term investing. Continuing to put your chips on the same failing business and going deeper and deeper sometimes is just a path to further disappointment and further failure. Sometimes you just got to walk away and say, that I learned a lot, and now it's time to do something different.
Right. And Bob shared those numbers at the beginning that not only are there no guarantees, if there were a guarantee, it's probably that your business is going to fail. Right. I mean, the numbers show that more likely than not, you're going in the wrong direction.
It's why I hate the word entrepreneur, because there's like a 90% over time failure rate for entrepreneurs, people that start new businesses. I hate it. It's why I bought franchises and I partner with people and I make investments in existing businesses, right? And I'm very conscious that if I start something from scratch, it's going to take a long time and it's going to be a lot of hard work because I hate failure. I don't want to get myself into a position where there's a 98% chance of failure. I want to be like a McDonald's franchise that on average they're the most profitable franchises in America, no matter who buys it, who starts it, and who runs it,
right?
Because they're playing by somebody else's playbook.
It's a great point, and that's probably the closest you would ever get to a guarantee would be something along that line. All right, Ben, how about this one? Number 10 on our list. Nobody will ever appreciate how much you do, and you probably shouldn't expect them to. But no one's going to appreciate what you actually do. They're just going to look at what you have and think, you got it unfairly or that they should have it or something. But how do you deal with the fact that no one will ever appreciate how much you do?
I think one of the secrets to long-term success in leadership is finding a way to control resentment and understand that you'll do nice things for people who will pack up in the middle of the night and leave. You'll do nice things for people that will steal from you, right? You will buy people dinner and do other things, and they will never say thank you. And that's part of the journey of leadership. And that's another, item on the list of shit they don't teach you in college is that they don't teach you that the person in charge gets rocks thrown at them, gets no appreciation, has to give 100% of the credit away, takes 100% of responsibility for failure, right? Burdens all the debt and liabilities, and 98% of the time walks out losing. That's like the worst job in the world. That's what we're all signing up for, by the way.
Yep.
But it sucks. And nobody's going to appreciate that. Like, Bob, I don't think people would really truly understand that for 8 to 10 years, I've been operating a tech company that I've never taken a dollar out of. It's not my part-time job, right? I don't take a salary. I don't take distributions. And I've worked super hard at that for nothing. I don't know if people appreciate that. I don't know if they appreciate that we give my cell phone number out when there's issues, right? Or if I take an hour out of my day when they don't realize that how many other things I have to do, and because I did that, I'll probably be up till midnight. I don't know if they appreciate that. My guess is they probably don't. That's okay. I don't need them to know that, right? I appreciate the opportunity to serve.
What I've found kind of in this similar, what I've found for me is it really only takes just a little bit, and maybe this is my personality, but just every once in a while here and there that they're appreciative, right? Like those things just sing, right? So when you get the bag of banana runts, even though you're not going to eat the bag of banana
Please do not.
runts,
They're still in my pantry.
Like you realize you're appreciated, and you just get those little things throughout time that kind of keep you going. You don't need them necessarily, but they're that signal that there's people out there that appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And you'll get a small group of those people, but they'll carry the weight of others sometimes.
That's right.
For you
That's
in that
right.
situation.
That's right. All right. So your personal relationships are going to suffer. Some of them will probably end. These are going to be relationships that you had long before you got into this business, right? Like, how do you deal with that idea that just things are going to change in your personal world?
Well, I'd say that advice that people give you about don't get into business with your friends or family, I think is completely wrong because my dad works here, my sister works here, you guys are my close friends. Like I actually believe in surrounding myself with friends and family. They have my back, and I trust them with everything. Right? Doesn't mean that it doesn't put pressure on the relationship. And at some points, you have to say, is the relationship with my friend or my family more important than their role? And it might mean in some company situations, I have to hire more people because you have this one particular person who's your friend that, doesn't quite carry their weight, but your friendship's worth more than that. If not, you'll understand that some of these relationships will dissolve or they'll change over time. Also, sometimes they'll end bad and it may not be your fault, maybe your fault. You never know. Just be prepared for it. I don't know if all relationships are meant to last forever. I'm not sure if that's a true statement. But the most important people, they will, if you work on yourself as much as they work on themselves.
You've said before, our relationships in any given point are either getting stronger or getting weaker. So if you put time and effort into those relationships, they probably are meant to last forever. If you don't put time and effort or there's some resentment that starts to build, they probably are going to end up, withering away.
I think your calendar tells you more about who you care about than anything else in your life. What you do with your spouses or friends or partners or who you spend time with at work, that's probably a good understanding of who you care about.
All right, let's keep going. That deep one right there, right? Let's keep going. Ben, number 12. You might need to replace yourself along the way because you might be the bottleneck. Talk about that one for us.
Well, we have a new company that we built called Place, and it's a big company. It's growing massively right now. We don't have a CEO. Now, it could be my co-founder, Chris, could be me. We kind of take on the responsibilities of things, but we don't have a CEO. Like, we are very much prepared mentally that we may not be the right person to take that business to its full potential. Doesn't mean we aren't going to contribute or we're going to walk away from it. It just means in many ways, we're not the right person for a lot of tasks that big companies have to do, and we're okay with that. In order for you to grow and promote yourself, you do have to replace yourself. So many people get stuck in their income brackets or get stuck in their companies being small because they don't ever replace themselves, and they're the janitor and they're the salesperson and they're the customer support and they're the product designer and they're all these things. And that's a pathway to having a super small business.
Okay. Bob, you ever been in a situation of replacing yourself?
I'm kind of there right now. Yeah, I mean, I've been there, active reign. I've had to walk away from kind of being the face of that community and replace myself. Yeah, there's definitely been. It's hard because a lot of times the things that you're doing that you end up having to replace yourself around are things you actually enjoy doing, right? So it's probably easier to get to leverage the things off your plate that you really didn't like, but ultimately and eventually you are going to have to give up things that you actually enjoyed doing. And for me, that was the hardest part.
And Ben, what's the feeling that comes along with it when you replace yourself the way Bob's talking about that? You have to then realize that maybe somebody's as good or better than you at doing what that job was if you've replaced yourself well. How do you deal with that of saying, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't me because this person's as good as I am doing that job or filling that void? How do you deal with the feelings that come along with that?
Well, like, how does he set his ego aside so that he can be okay with somebody coming in and doing a better job than he would do? I assume that's pretty easy.
I think my entire goal in life is to hire people that are better than me in lots of areas.
Yeah.
And to work hard to make sure that I'm not irrelevant in the company by continuing to learn and figure things out and push us forward. I may not have any skill set at the end of this entire journey that we go on, guys, but I will have the personality to and skills to simplify things and keep pushing. I may not even know what the people are doing in front of me, but I'm going to be standing behind them, gently pushing. Say, keep going, we got this. Okay. Right? And when times are needed, I may put on my kilt, paint my face blue, run to the front and say, follow me, we got this. I'm prepared for that.
No battle cry there, no freedom scream that you were setting up for at that moment? Just checking.
Come on, you got it. Freedom! You got it.
I think you did good there. You nailed it. You nailed
Bob,
it.
we got one
We'll
more.
wrap it up. Number 13, we'll let you guys go on your way and let you, sit back and think, do I really want to do this? Like, I'm in the middle of it right now, or I'm thinking about starting it. Like, do I want to deal with all these hard truths, right? The last one, and for me, it's probably been the hardest thing in my career, is you're going to have to fire people. You're going to have to fire people. I feel like there should have been a class in college about the best way to do this, but how do you deal with that, Ben? Like,
People don't write books about it. There isn't classes about it. They don't talk about it in college, right? Letting somebody go with class and allowing them to walk away with integrity and self-esteem and hope that they can find something else, yet still doing what's best for your business. It's hard.
Let's be clear. That's two different things. The firing with class and integrity, because it's actually pretty easy to come in and say, Bob, you're useless, you're out.
well, if
Right.
you're a psychopath, I mean, if you have
Not
any
the way to do
feelings
it.
or any compassion for people or any empathy, like it's not easy to do that.
Which is
but-
what we're asking you to talk about there, right? It's the firing people with class and integrity. How do you do it?
I think that you walk into the situation being willing to be generous, being willing to take responsibility, being willing to apologize, and being willing to offer support into whatever the next venture is. In fact, I sometimes do severance packages for people I have to fire, not even necessarily for them, but as like a punishment to me for being a bad leader or not hiring right. Because I understand that every person I fire, it affects their lives and their livelihood and their mortgage payment and their rent and their kids and their food and everything. So I take it super seriously. Over time, it gets harder because when you work with people for a long time and it's just no longer a match, you aren't just firing people, you're firing friends. And if you spend as much time at work as we all do, then you're firing family in many ways, right?
And you're not just losing that person. Everybody else is losing that person too.
Yeah. And they look at you and say, well, why'd you do that? And sometimes legally, you may not be in a position where you can explain what that person did. And sometimes people put themselves in positions where legally you didn't have a choice. You had to part ways with them, but you can't ever tell them that. So you just got to take those rocks and say, I know, I understand. This individual had to move on to the next opportunity. It was out of my control, and just be okay with that. When I look at these 13 items, not everybody's going to like you. People are going to disappoint you. It's going to cost more and take longer. Every responsibility falls back on you. Other people depend on you. Your feelings don't matter. You need to own every failure. There's always something to do, and you're going to leave you feeling that you had things unfinished. There are no guarantees. Nobody will ever appreciate how much you do, and honestly, we shouldn't expect them to. Your personal relationships will suffer, and some relationships will end. You might need to replace yourself along the way because you aren't good enough to take your team to that Super Bowl, and you have to be okay with just being the coach or being on the sidelines. Lastly, you're going to have to let people go and part with people with a class, fire people. These are hard things. These are the shit they do not teach you in college. These are the stuff that nobody talks about, but these are the things that you will deal with if you build a big business and a good business. These are all things that you're going to have to handle. If you don't want to do it on your own, get a partner, share the burden, or get a job and work for somebody and make them do that stuff. Either way, you want to have a big life, you need to get good at this 13.
Is there a 14th on the list? If there is, come join us in our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/win-make-give. Let us know if we missed a hard truth you've learned along the way or you believe you want to share with other people when it comes to success in business and leadership. Till our next episode, make sure you visited us at our Facebook group. Make sure you shared this episode with someone who's had the conversation about going into business for themselves so Ben, Bob, and myself can share with them the shit they never learned in college along the way. And until that time, remember, do good.